Greetings to all our viewers. My name is Dr. Don Kent from the Foundation for Fiscal Reform. We want to welcome you to our latest chapter in the solution to America's other aids. Professor Ron Nelson is going to be speaking with us today about our American recession. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Don. Thank you very much. As most of you know, we're in the midst of a recession, and there are many complex causes to all of it, but some of the more important salient points need to be made right up front. First and foremost, 70% of the gross domestic product, which is the total value of goods and services generated in the economy each year, is due to consumer purchases. Therefore, to a great extent, the recession or expansion of any economy is tied directly, especially in our economy, to the American consumer. The consumer went through a stock boom cycle in the early 1990s and into the year 2000. Then that was followed by a housing boom and a bust that we're experiencing now. And during this whole time period, we've exported many manufacturing jobs to Asia, so we in effect are cutting one of the stools off the leg of the U.S. economy. In addition to that, the consumers speak with their purchases, and their purchases then dictate whether or not the economy will grow or contract. If you do the math, it's very simple. Imports reduce the gross domestic product, and if you purchase domestically produced goods and services, it increases the domestic product. So therein lies part of the problem within the U.S. economy.
Thanks, Ron. You know, you did mention housing. The housing crisis, the mortgage crisis, is on the minds of many of our readers and of all Americans. We really need your input on the housing crisis and what it means.
Okay, this is the worst housing crisis that we've experienced in this country since the Depression of the 1930s. Depending on which expert you listen to, housing prices will not hit a bottom for at least 1 to 3 years, which means we will have gone through a housing contraction over a 4 to 5 year period. During this time frame, depending on which market you're in, the housing prices themselves will have declined anywhere from 15 to 50%, depending on which market you're in. This obviously then has created an evaporation of an enormous amount of wealth because consumers no longer have the money by flipping houses and selling them, or by selling their house and moving on to another one. That has reduced the amount of disposable income to Americans. They no longer have it, and so they can no longer afford to purchase things. In addition to that, imports have grown greatly during this time period, which further erodes the U.S. economy because the jobs go overseas, and worse than that, the wealth goes overseas, the income and the technology from the sales to Americans from these foreign countries. And of course, as most of you know, you may have seen the T. Boone Pickens ad, which said that 70% of the U.S. oil is imported. Well, that's somewhere between 35 and 38% of the total trade in terms of imports into this country. So it gets a lot of, publicity, but there's also serious other problems as well. And I think that all has to be kept in perspective, Don.
That was most insightful, Ron. Americans are having to pay more and more for produced and purchased goods in this country. What kind of clarification and possible solutions do you have for this dilemma?
Well, one of the things that all Americans need to think very seriously about is the fact that because of special interest groups and other forces at work in the U.S. economy, we have become an economically dependent nation. We're tremendously dependent on foreign oil, as I previously stated, but that's only part of the problem. That's only 35% of the imports. You need to look at furniture, automobiles, and all the other items that we import into this country. And that's created a dependent situation to the point that we export $2 billion a day just to support our current lifestyle. And eventually, all Americans are going to have to face the facts that either you're going to support American companies and American businesses, or we're going to be completely beholden, as we are moving towards, to foreign entities who will then take those monies and come back into this country and purchase U.S. corporations. So we're faced with some very serious, potentially economic problems. And as most of you may or may not know, this is the largest transfer of wealth in the history of civilization. Never before has $6 trillion been exported out of a country as quickly as it has in this country. And so our economic dependence worsens as time moves along, and the only way to reverse the recession is ultimately for Americans to support American businesses so that we can provide jobs in this country as well as wealth going to American stockholders for their ownership of American businesses. That's how you grow the U.S. economy. It's not going to grow. You know, everybody says that, well, isn't that wonderful that foreign corporations come in and put investments into the United States? But ultimately, they're going to wind up owning more and more American companies. As most of you know, Budweiser is in the process of being purchased by a Belgian company, and all you have to do is look around yourself and look at all the foreign companies that are coming into this country. So ultimately, the solution is for us to support American businesses and help make them grow and be competitive throughout the world economy, Don.
As always, that was most informative, Ron. It's interesting how you provide the hard data that we Americans, not just the Foundation's readers, but all Americans need. It also explains why you're doing the hard job that the politicians and industrialists have not addressed due to special interests. Please keep it up. We need your data, we need your information, and we need your membership. Again, we encourage you, if you have not joined and become a member, to fffr.org. Please do so. Please tell your friends. Tell your friends we don't represent any agenda other than solutions to America's economic problems. And Ron, we very much look forward to the next chapter in America's Other Aids. Thank you.